So in this video I'm going to show you how to put together the DrillSharp 3D printed knife sharpener. It's good for putting convex edges on all of your kitchen and hunting knives. Those are more robust and will stay sharp longer. And it's a cheaper way to use the same sharpening belts that other sharpener you can buy at sporting goods stores uses. They're 1/2 inch by 30 centimeters or 1/2 inch by 12 inches. You might be able to modify the STL file slightly if you want to use slightly longer or slightly wider belts. Since it's written in OpenSCAD, it's fully parametric and easily editable. Okay, so this is going to be pretty easy to build. There's not a whole lot of parts, and most of them are pretty cheap. Like I say, you'll only need 2 tools. That's 2 of the same size wrench, 1/2 inch. As far as parts go, we've got 2 5/16 by 2 inch bolts, 3 5/16 nuts, 3 5/16 washers, and then 3 5/16 nylon insert lock nuts. For bearings, we have 608 ZZ, commonly known as skateboard bearings. And then you can use long tap bolts, but I like to use a couple pieces of 5/16 all thread because that's what I had lying around from previous printer builds. Finally, a couple of 1/4 screws. These are 1/4 by 1 inch. You might probably want longer. I just use them kind of for alignment. I don't actually tighten them down on anything, so it doesn't really matter how long they are. Now for the printed parts, we have angle guides. These are you're gonna line the knife up against in order to sharpen. 3 pulleys, 2 idle pulleys, and then 1 drive pulley. This has the hexagonal cutout nut trap so that we can drive with the drill. I believe I called it a bearing washer. It's just a little spacer ring so that the bearing can be put up against the back side of the sharpener without rubbing up on the inside and slowing down and providing a lot of friction. 2 frame pieces, and these definitely need to be printed with supports. The other ones you could probably try to print without supports, but these, just the way they're shaped, they cannot be printed without supports. I recommend for easily removable supports using Cura. It's free, it works. I do not use it to actually run the printer. I just export G-code and then I still use Pronterface. But that's up to you. As far as generating G-code goes though, it has fewer options as far as infill patterns and things like that, but supports are easily removable and they work really well, so recommend that. Okay, so let's get started. The first thing we're going to want to do probably is put some pulleys on the bottom 2 corners of this. So if you're looking at it like this part that sticks out, that's where the tension is. We want that screw that's tensioning it to be lined up with the belt. So the pulleys go on this side, not on the opposite side. So take an idle pulley and 2 of the skateboard bearings. Press 1 in this side, 1 in the opposite side. 1 washer. I like to put the sort of not quite flat part of the washer up against the bearing, but I don't know if that's actually better. Feel free to email me and tell me I'm an idiot if it's not. Slide this screw through, put the washer there, slide your pulley on, get a nylock nut. When you're tightening this, you want to be careful to get it so it doesn't have a lot of slop, but it is also not side loaded enough to actually increase friction very much. So just feel how it is. That feels pretty good, and I can't wobble it. Do the same on the other side. Second idle pulley, 2 more skateboard bearings. Press this in. There we go. Another screw. Washer. And nylock nut. Looks like I had another washer off screen there, so don't get confused with the parts counts. I was right the first time. There you go. Okay. Now, see, that's got too much slop. That's going to need to be tightened up. There we go. Okay. So that was our first step. Okay, next we're going to want to put together the top part. We're going to use a piece of all thread for that. What we're going to probably want to do for this, the easiest way, is we're going to want to thread a nylock nut onto here, but we kind of want it really way up close to the top. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to feed it on from the wrong direction here, from the opposite end of the one I'm going to chuck into the drill. And I'm going to chuck this end into my drill and just kind of use a wrench here. Nice and toasty warm. Yeah. We're going to call that good. And then I'm going to take these and kind of line them up, and you can see how it's supposed to fit together, because these 2 blocks here are going to line up. And stick this through here. Well, take that back. I put on my bearing, and it is warm from before, so be careful about that. Then this bearing washer, as I called it in the files, this just slides off that bearing, so it's going to be able to turn freely. Slide this through here, and then it's going to look like this. So now what we're going to want to do is take your drive pulley, just like the other one, gets a bearing there. We've got this thread through here with our skateboard bearing and our little bearing, 3D print bearing washer. Now we take one more 5/16 plain metal washer and put it here. That'll keep the inside of the bearing from rubbing against the plastic. And this part we have 2 nuts, one nut as a jam nut against the other one to keep this from slipping. So we just take our smaller wrench and then sort of tighten the crap out of this so it doesn't slip. And then we're going to use our 2 wrenches again. And I'm going to use the ratcheting one to try to get this adjusted again, just like the other 2 pulleys, so that it's snug and it doesn't have a lot of slop, but so that it also doesn't bind. You can feel it starting to bind when it does, but so that the belt gets held straight, you really don't want to under tighten this either. It's got to be just right, and that's about just right. So now you see we have this thing, and we can do sort of like this. Okay, so now what I've done is I've slid my bolts through the back. I've slid my angle guides onto the front. I've got all my pulleys here are nice and tight, but not too tight. And then we are just going to add the tensioner, which I used another piece of threaded rod because I had it lying around. But like I say, you can be more than welcome to use a longer tap bolt or something similar. Here's my 5/16 nut. Just slide it into the nut trap here. You can glue it in if you want. I have not done that. Then slide this through and screw it in. Now to put on the belt, just kind of screw this out enough that you can put it all the way back together like that. Put your belt over your 3 pulleys and in these grooves in the angle guide so that it's nice and triangular and against the plastic, and just kind of tighten this. Don't over tighten it, because if you over tighten it, you're gonna have all the pulleys sort of trying to bend in. What you want is just enough that it's sticking to all the pulleys and that the drill is going to move the belt, not just slide pulleys under it. So just enough that it's still easy to turn, but you can see the belt turning. Then you're going to take your drill, chuck it in there real good, and there you go. What I do is I put a little zip tie around the drill handle, and I can slide that over the trigger so that I can have it hold it on. Demonstrate real quick. Look, got this angle guide here. Just slide this nice and real gentle. Not quite perfect, but it's a good start.